Hello and welcome to Star Trek Wars. Today we'll be discussing Season 3, Episode 3 of Star Trek Picard. I'm your co-host Jordan, and joining me as always, it's Joselyn.
Hey.
Joselyn, any 20-year-old bombshells you want to lay on us?
Well, I don't know if you're ready for this, but I drink chamomile tea now.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Calm Joselyn today.
I know. It only takes 8 sugars, but tastes pretty good after 8 sugars.
Perfect.
Before
no more,
that?
No less.
Yeah. It's got to be 8.
So we'll be reviewing Picard Season 3, Episode 3, entitled 17 Seconds. Written by Jane Maggs and Cindy Appel, directed by Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah.
Picard grapples with life-altering revelation as the crew of the Titan attempt to outmaneuver Vadic, while Raffi, or Raphael, and Worf uncover a plot by a vengeful enemy. So, Jocelyn, what are your first impressions of this week's episode?
I could cry. I'm so happy.
Okay.
I was worried. We talked about it last week, but I thought in any series that I start watching, whatever it is, I always give it 3 episodes because I feel like that's the fair amount of time to figure out. That's when like a show really gets its groove, or when the premise of a show completely falls apart. I feel like the 3-episode rule applies to most things. And so I was kind of anxious going into this one thinking, is it going to come together or is it going to all fall apart? And I feel like it really came together. And I'm happy.
Yeah, I agree. I think 3, maybe 4, based on some of the past experience with the Picard series in general. But
true.
Yeah, definitely a good start. It doesn't look like it's going to be slowing down, hopefully, anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was another really good outing for sure. There was a lot to talk about this week, and definitely a lot of new plot lines, which I'm excited for, but a little concerned about how they're going to handle a couple. So we'll talk about those. Definitely some more mysteries, but we're getting answers as we go along, which is nice before they bring up 15 plot threads that we know we'll never get answers to. They are giving us answers.
Yes.
The least of which may be why Jack has an accent, an English accent. So
I love they shoved that in there.
They went deep on that. So let's go into our pros, Jocelyn. What did you like about this week's episode?
Well, of course, I'll start with the fashion. It's a short list, but it's a list nonetheless. Beverly's money pieces are making me want a new hairdo dye job, like the whole thing. Do you know what a money?
I was going to ask, what is a money piece?
So
just for the fans out there that maybe don't know. I mean,
because obviously you know.
Sure.
The money piece is when you have a dye job that's one color, and then just the front, the like face framing pieces are a different color. And in Bev's situation, her hair is kind of mostly reddish, brown auburny with some gray, and then she's got these stark gray money pieces in the front. And they just look so good. They look so good in motion. They look so I just love it. So those are the money pieces, and I want some. Number 2 is Worf's battle casual look. I love it.
You can wear it to the gym. You can wear it to beheadings.
Right, exactly. You can wear it on a Tuesday. You can wear it on beheading Wednesday. I mean, it's a day to night look. It works for every warrior. So yeah, his whole aesthetic, his whole look, his whole prosthetic aesthetic it's great. It's great. And then lastly, I know she got some criticism from Worf on this, but I liked Raffi's hood, and I want that. I want that in a hood cape situation just for my life. I'm a little concerned because Raffi's wearing the same outfit again, and I'm just like, maybe a shower, maybe a change of clothes would be good for her.
Those would all be great, but when lives are on the line, I think you can forego a shower, for a day or two.
No, I think you make room. You make time for bathing. I don't know. I've never been in that situation before. But I mean, it's a great outfit. Again, I love the shirt. It's just...
I thought it was funny how Worf was saying that she looked conspicuous with a hood. It's like, if you're in that district, the drug district, and you're not wearing a hoodie, I feel like you would be more conspicuous than just...
Meanwhile, he's in his full, like, sash and everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Well played. That's the end of the fashion. I really like the dynamic between Beverly and Jack. I think Jack loves his mummy, and they make a really good team. Like, just watching them in the sick bay, their bedside manners are really great, and they have a style of medicine that isn't just relying on the machines, you know? And we saw this when Captain Shaw went back to the sick bay, and Beverly is like, you can't just trust the scans.
Oh, Joselyn, you just gave me a great idea for a British spin-off show.
Okay.
Starring Jack Crusher and Beverly Crusher. It's like a medical procedural drama called Bedside Manor, but it's like a big, like, wealthy home where they treat.
Bedside Manor. Downton Abbey meets ER.
Play on words.
Okay, it's a huge, rich family, and they have to convert their home into a wartime hospital.
Yeah, or their vineyard into a hospital.
The hospital,
because you don't need wine as much as you need. Well, I don't know.
Wow. Somebody email Julian Fellows. We have the next hit on our hands. Oh, wow. That's a really good idea. We should quit this podcast and just write this show.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Why not both?
Why not both? We're going to get into the more technical medical aspect of this show in my neutral zones in a moment, but moving on. Riker and I had a son. Oh, no. I know. And honestly... very interesting, and I like it. It's in my pros, okay, because it makes sense. There's a rift between him and
and they have already kind of talked about this in season 1 in the Nepenthe episode, where he couldn't get treatment because he needed something to do with positronic stuff.
Oh my God, I forgot that.
That it was illegal by the Federation.
Yeah.
It was not at all any way like an analogy to stem cells or anything.
Oh, no, of course not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. No.
So, yeah, they kind of re-bring that up.
So that's great.
Yeah, it's kind of good that they actually remembered that. I mean, it's a little heavy-handed at the beginning of the episode where they have, like, the perfect moment that we never saw between Picard and Riker talking about being a parent. And
I didn't think we needed that, but now you're peeking into my cons.
Okay.
How dare you, sir? Yeah, I thought it set up like a good tension between Riker and Picard, because now Picard has this thing Riker doesn't have anymore, and then they're kind of arguing on the bridge, which wasn't really... I don't know, that wasn't really characteristic of their friendship. It kind of explains that a little bit. Not all the way for me, but a bit, and I'm fine with it. So that's interesting. I'm interested in that dynamic now. It's very kind of like all enmeshed. It's all like intertwined in this show. They're doing a good job of that. Also, did they shoot a torpedo with a phaser in this episode?
They did, yeah, and I'll have something to say about that as well.
Okay. I mean, maybe you're going to ruin this for me, but I was like, well, that's kind of cool.
It is cool. I can't say that it's never been done before, but the way that they do it is interesting, the way things play out, given, I'm no physics expert, but maybe we get one of our fans who's smarter than us to explain this to me, and I'll go into detail later on this.
Okay.
I have some questions.
I would love to hear that. Worf giving himself the full Game of Thrones Khaleesi intro in this episode was gold. I loved it. It was really, really good. I love this Worf. Like, he's working on himself. I thought that was beautiful. He calls Rafaela, which now I will forever now be referring to her as Rafaela because it's very cool. It makes her sound like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Exactly.
And that is all I ever ask.
Cooler.
Really. And they're so... The way that those two characters and those two actors really play off each other, I really, really enjoy this. And I think Rafaela is going to learn a lot from Worf. She has a mentor now, which is what she needs. She needs someone to hone her and to focus her and to kind of balance her out. And they figured that out. Also, it's amazing what she can do when they give her like someone to really play off of in scenes. And it's not just her in a computer or her pontificating or her talking to her dirtbag ex-husband. Like, she now has someone who, like Michelle Hurd has Michael Dorn now, who's someone who like can act well. And so she has
Michelle
someone.
Can be heard.
She can be heard. Michelle Hurd can be heard. Finally. How long have you been waiting to pull that one out, huh?
A while.
Just sitting there waiting for it. My last pro that I have listed anyway. We don't see much of Space Mommy Dearest, Vatic, Amanda Plummer, but what we got, I feel like was effective. You know, they came in really heavy with her last episode, and now they're backing off a little bit. But she was like this focused. You saw the captain in her this episode. She was focused. She was to the point. She was calm, collected. Like, it was great. I really, really just enjoyed this episode, and I can't remember now the point where I like laughed out loud, and I meant to write it down, but I forgot to take extensive notes because I was just enjoying it, you know? And I just didn't want to look away. Neutral Zone wise, there's one thing and one thing only that I just feel like touching on, and that is, can we talk, and you're probably having this same thought as well, but can we please just review the cardiac rhythms and when it is not appropriate to shock someone?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
If you shock them long enough, they'll come back.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So here's the deal. And every show does this. They show a flat line and then you shock. I don't know much, but I do know, as a nurse who does not infrequently shock people, that there are only a handful of lethal rhythms that you can shock. The purpose of shocking the heart is to convert a rhythm. So you're in VTAC, you're in VFib, you're likely pulseless, maybe not. These are really fast rhythms, and you're trying to stop the heart momentarily in the hopes that by interrupting that, you can create a different conductivity conduit through the heart in some kind of life-sustaining rhythm that will actually pump blood through the heart, right? Yeah. If you are in asystole, that means the heart, not only is the heart
That's
physically... Beautiful countryside. You've got to go.
Yes, the pizza. Oh.
It's just to die for. Glass of Chianti, you're set. No. Okay. When the heart's in asystole...
Buongiorno.
Oh, prego. Not only is it physically not moving, but there is no electrical activity. None. It's not even trying, right? So you cannot convert electrical activity that isn't there. When you shock someone in asystole, you are just shocking a dead body that is going to remain dead. You need to do compressions. That's the only thing that you do for asystole.
You need an electrician.
And you need an electrician. Get in there with the screwdrivers and the whatnot. Hello? Wow, you are not getting this, but I will excuse you because you have had no medical training in your entire life. Yeah, I bet. Look, here's the deal. Just know this. Whenever you see in medical shows or in any show someone with a flat line,
it's all wrong,
and they shock them, this person has not gone to medical school. They've not gone to nursing school. They have no idea what they're doing. I just want you to know that.
They're an actor.
And it bothers me. It bothers. It takes me out of it. Every time.
I can imagine.
Anyway, to learn more about your heart and the electrical activity and how to make a dead person undead, just ask me in the Facebook group, and I will explain more.
Are you in the Facebook group?
No. No, I'm not, Jordan. So you're going to have to bring the questions to me, and I will bring the answers to you, and you will take those answers and bring them to the person asking the questions, okay? I have many hours of study and practical knowledge in the I undead people every week, at least. So, seen a thing or two, know a thing or two. Moving on, Jordan, do you have any pros?
I do. I liked the use of the aging technology. That's definitely technology that I could use. Do you have a minute to talk about skincare, Joselyn?
Hey, I have as many minutes as you need. That's another thing I have a lot of study and practical knowledge in.
I liked the opening. See, like I said, it was a little bit on the nose, but
sure.
It's good just to see. So much time has passed that Riker and Picard, have shared some moments together. Those big, life-changing moments that they went to a bar, and I don't think Deanna was too happy about it, but
we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I can understand. I did like what I would call like subtle character growth. Seven is in her quarters. She's listening to music. I think it's Mozart. And she has a model of Voyager in her quarters. So we kind of see where she's come from and how far she's come as a person. Obviously, she is working on herself, as Worf would say, as well. I feel like scenes between Beverly and Picard are a little strange because Picard sounds much older.
Much older.
Beverly sounds the exact same to me.
Yeah.
It's like he has aged 30 years and she hasn't hardly aged at all.
Yeah.
And speaking of Beverly and Picard, what did you think about, because I didn't hear this in your prose, Beverly's explanation for why she didn't tell Picard about their love child?
I was hoping you'd bring it up because controversial opinion here, but I agree with Beverly.
Really?
Yes, she lost her husband, she lost her son. Picard's always been like, no family for me. I'm traumatized for life.
I'm sorry. She lost her son?
Yes. Wesley Crusher took off into the stars.
She didn't lose her son. Her son chose to be a traveler and was written off the show.
He didn't ask her.
He
still
just
alive. Left.
We don't know exactly, actually.
She did not want her baby, her child, to be murdered, held for ransom, kidnapped, all the things that you just know.
She made assumptions.
She made decisions. And she did what was best for that kid. Knowing that Picard, you know that he would have been an absentee father. He would have been out in the stars. There is nothing more important to him than his Starfleet career. And that's not a dig. It just is. It's just who he is. And Bev knows that.
Have you watched Star Trek Generations, where Picard gets sucked into the Nexus, and what is his vision? What is he seeing? His family on Christmas morning, Jocelyn.
That's
all
right.
The little children.
And he knows it's not real.
Picard has had a son.
Because he's like, I would never.
He has had a son in the inner light. He lived an entire lifetime for that son. He learned how to play the flute. And he lost them all, Jocelyn.
He's done that. It's over. It's over. He's over. Now, do I agree with Beverly's apparent choice to put her child in a boarding school from apparently day one until he was apparently an adult, so that now he only speaks in a British accent? No, I mean, I have some questions about that.
Lock him in rooms?
Don't know why he was locked away.
Is that from Picard's side of the family, apparently?
Yeah, they love doing that.
And he's also like, she's putting him in danger to an extent just with the work that he's doing. Is it not like she is not to blame?
But he gets to choose the danger. That kid gets to choose it. Just like he chose whether or not to meet his father. She gave him that choice, and he said no.
When he was like 16, like, I mean...
An appropriate time.
Okay.
It's not perfect. Don't get me wrong, it's not perfect. But just know, I support Beverly in this.
Okay.
I do.
I do not exactly.
Of course not.
I was not completely against Beverly in this. Like, she had some compelling reasons. She also mentioned that she lost her parents. Obviously lost Jack.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like almost a subtle dig at Picard, because he's the one that,
Yeah.
So, but she chose to engage in a romantic relationship with Picard.
Wow.
And as a doctor, she should know what can happen when two people get together.
Wow.
But for her to just completely leave everyone for 20 years and not talk to anyone.
How could she tell anyone else and not Picard?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
She should have told Picard.
She made the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, it didn't make a big difference, because guess what? Her son's in danger anyways. So she stole 20 years of his life from him.
Wow.
This is probably Patrick Stewart's best acting in this series so far. I thought that team was very good, and it helps when you have characters that have history and chemistry acting together.
Yes.
Which is kind of lacking from season 1 and season 2. But, yeah, I mean... I like Lars and everything, but Patrick Stewart does not have the same on-screen chemistry with his Romulan housekeeper as he does with Dr. Crusher. Worf's introduction was phenomenal. The opera, like, he's practicing with his new weapon. I think it's called the Kurleth, like a larger mechleth, essentially. Then his like you said, his Khaleesi entrance of "I am Worf, son of Moog, house of Martok, son of Sergei, house of Rozhenko, bane of the Duras family, slayer of Gowron. I have made some chamomile tea. Do you take sugar?" Like, so good. I laughed so loud when that happened.
Yeah, me too.
We also get some big revelations in this episode that the changelings are back, and there's kind of like a splinter group, which I did not see coming.
Me neither.
Which I guess you're not really able to see them coming because they're changelings.
True.
And they're more dangerous than ever, Jocelyn, because they've discovered auto-tune technology. That was not my favorite part, where he's like molting back into his liquid form, but he's talking like his voice is auto-tuned. I'm not sure why that is, or if you noticed that. But that was just
I didn't notice that at all.
I liked that there's actually some Deep Space Nine continuity, which the TNG movies
finally
hardly mention.
Right.
And the first 2 seasons of Picard have all but ignored. So it is cool that we get a little bit in that vein. And we also get a shout out to Odo. Not by name, but we all know who Worf's friend in the Great Link is.
Mm-hmm.
And then after Jack was hurt, it took Picard exactly 17 seconds to get to sickbay, which that's what I call continuity.
True.
That's the name of this episode. And that's what Riker said it took on the original Titan. So it makes sense. Now, Picard, is he as fleet of foot as Riker was 20 years ago? Probably not. But,
right.
When your son that you just found out about after 20 years of a relationship that you had that ended, and you don't know what happened, and then the woman ghosted you and didn't tell you about the son, and then he gets hurt, you move extra fast to get to sickbay to find out what's going on.
Wow. Neutral
zone-wise, my wife does not believe that Jack Crusher could pass for 20. And I was like, what? They always cast actors that are a little older. So I looked it up. He's actually almost 35. So I'm kind of on her side on this one, because that's a big ask. If he was like 25 or like upper 20s, but this guy just graduated from being a teenager. Like,
he was one of those guys who had like a full beard in high school. Did you go to school with anybody like that?
Maybe a few.
That's okay. He's been like on the lam apparently his whole adult life. That ages you. Space ages you. He's only 20.
Yeah,
he's very young. Look, I'll take him. I don't care what age they pretend he is. I'll take it. I don't got no criticism for Jack Crusher.
The crew's general reaction to Jack and Beverly is not completely unreasonable given the situation, but like in Star Trek and the Federation, what we've come to see and expect, like there's this guy who just looks at Jack, he's like, this is all your fault. Like, okay.
Yeah, that guy's got some issues.
Yes. And the doctor makes it seem like medicine has advanced so much in the past 20 years, and Beverly, the former head doctor of the flagship of the Federation, couldn't possibly use a dermal regenerator correctly. Like,
right.
What the heck?
If you worked with doctors, you may... I was like, yep, that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah,
they're quite territorial.
I understand this is her sick bay, and she doesn't want Beverly, but like, yeah, I kind of get that. But there's people dying all around them, like,
and Beverly's been out there practicing like wartime space medicine for the last 20 years. She knows her stuff.
Yeah,
but
not a fan of this doctor.
Nah.
So as promised, shooting a torpedo and then detonating it to yeet one's enemy looks cool. But detonating it halfway between both ships, it reminds me of a joke I heard about a woman who may have light-colored hair, and she is stuck on a desert island, and she swims halfway from this island to shore and gets tired and turns around and goes back. Like, it doesn't make sense.
That is so old. Oh, my God.
So are we. So
hey, speak for yourself.
A torpedo. Yes, my older sister. I will speak.
I've got the de-aging technology over here.
You probably look younger than me. But to shoot a torpedo halfway between both ships and then blow it up, would that not
affect your
both
ship
ships equally? I mean, that's what Riker says.
That's what he says. It isn't what happens.
It looks like. It looks like it's 80% of the way there. But yeah, there is something just funny about shooting a torpedo before it detonates, and that is somehow more powerful than actually shooting someone with a torpedo.
That's weird, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's interacting, I guess, with the gas in the nebula too, so that could have something to do with it instead of hitting shields. But yeah, just the way Riker said it and then the way it played out, it was kind of weird.
It's a little weird.
I don't really need a flashback mid-episode to what I saw last week when they show Rafi's flashback.
Yeah.
Showing us exactly what we had seen. So
we just got it in the previously on, so yeah, I don't think we needed it.
So I've seen that 3 times.
Yeah, just to drive it home.
And another thing I don't fully understand, it probably makes sense, but like if you have a changeling on board the Titan, do you actually need a trail to find out where they are, or couldn't they just tell you which way they're going?
Yeah, well.
But it's like they have the blood in the water thing going on, and then he's also like the one that's chosen to look out the window for some reason, and then he detonates a bomb on board also. Like, the Shrike has every advantage here, and it seems like they just, I guess, contingencies, but
they don't want them destroyed. It's interesting.
And if hiding in a nebula in 3D space, like, couldn't one hide anywhere in this big gaseous nebula? Or do you have to go towards the center of the gravitational well to get away? Because they can clearly follow you.
Yeah, I don't know.
And there's nothing we know about the Titan saying it can withstand the gravity well better than the Shrike at this point. So I don't see any reason why. I mean, the sensors don't really work in the nebula as is. So going towards the center doesn't really add anything more other than a lot of danger.
I just don't know what a nebula is. So I'm really...
It's like a giant gas cloud, basically. But like, just in Star Trek canon,
it looks like it. But
like the Matara Nebula, once the Enterprise and the Reliant go in, they can't really scan each other. Your shields don't work, so like it's an even playing field in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no point where Kirk's like, we got to go to the gravitational well in the center of the nebula, whatever that is, to be safer. Like, you just, like, you're playing hide and seek. You can go anywhere.
Yeah.
The Shrike uses the portal weapon, and it seems completely superfluous to me. I guess that's probably the point, but the effects made it look a little cheesy, because she's, like, spinning up the weapon and then firing it, and then the portal's forming, like, as the ship is going towards it, and, like, you're in space. You could stop instantly. Like, this is not like a car going
it's too late.
80 miles per hour on a slick road.
No.
Go around.
It's a car in neutral going down a hill. You can't stop it. What would you press the brakes? That doesn't work.
And just the logistics of firing the portal weapon, and then there'd have to be, like, a calculation of where that second portal is and where they come out. So, like, someone's doing a lot of math that we're not seeing off screen. And, kudos to them.
The AI is doing the math.
I guess so.
I mean, we have the technology now. Not the portal, but math.
We have math.
We have the math.
We have all the maths.
I thought it was cool. Again, it reminds me of Sackboy, because it's the exact technology that's in that game, but...
It's a lot of games, and it's the absolute, like, just completely mess with your enemy type of weapon. It's like the trolling weapon.
It is. Well, that's the Shrike, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just picking away, wearing them down.
And the point where they, send them through and then use their own torpedoes against them. Mm-hmm. That was a little cooler.
That was pretty cool, yeah.
But yeah, just messing with them and, making them start at square one was, But that's just kind of mainly nitpicks. Most of my neutral zone stuff is just either stuff I don't understand or stuff that doesn't make sense yet. Not a ton of real major issues so far. Mm-hmm. So, Jocelyn, we're going to take a quick advertisement break here at the Star Trek Wars Podcast. We're going to let you know about our sponsor, the Star Trek Wars Podcast. And if you're into Star Trek, we've got you covered. With over 300 completely free episodes spanning the past 9 years. We've covered every Star Trek episode ever and all the movies.
That's should be an award for that.
850-something episodes and movies. We also have a Patreon page over at patreon.com/Star Trek Wars if you want to support the podcast, where we discuss bonus Star Trek content and even venture beyond the Trek universe.
And you can ask all your medical questions.
Exactly. And if you're from the future and don't believe in money anymore, we've got you covered, because we also have a Facebook group, Jocelyn, which is free for anyone. Which can be found at facebook.com/groups/Star Trek Wars.
So
where you can engage in scintillating conversation, vote on weekly episodes and polls, and even have your episode comments read on air. You can also follow us on Twitter at the Star Trek Wars.
Cool.
Well, Justin, without further ado, speaking of nebulas, let's get into our cons.
Let's get into our cons. I think this was a con of yours last week, and so I will just parrot it since they continue to bring it up. Picard's synthetic body.
Yes.
Every episode. It's like a thing now. And maybe it'll be funny at a certain point, but I'm waiting for that.
Too soon.
Oh, hashtag too soon. Yeah. They explain the British accent.
Yeah.
But I'm not buying it. Like...
It's more neutral zone for me. Like, I'm glad they addressed it.
Yeah, you addressed it. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for Jack Crusher. Again, no notes. But I'm just concerned that he spent so much time at a boarding school, I hope he's okay. But he seems
canonically,
to be all right.
That's pretty in line with Beverly's parenting background and ability.
That's true. So how much did Picard really miss? You know what I mean? Rafaela goes through withdrawals after literally one hit of space fentanyl. And I am just, again, here to tell you that is not how medicine works. You don't just go through withdrawals because you have it one time, even if it is after not having it for several years. Like, you have to build up a dependency on something. So if you go
Jocelyn,
to
do you know much about space drugs that you insert into your eyes, though?
No, but I know a bunch
Designed
about
by a Ferengi.
drugs. Okay, so maybe space fentanyl works differently, but I do know about drugs that are injected into the eyeballs because I also get those patients. But just as an aside, if you are ever in the hospital after a terrible car accident or you fell or, you're hurt, take the drugs. You are not going to develop a drug problem by getting drugs while in the hospital. You're going to develop a drug problem when you take the prescription home and then you get a refill of the prescription.
These comments made by Joselyn are Joselyn's alone and do not reflect the thoughts of the Star Trek Wars podcast.
Do not listen to me for medical advice. I'm one person and I could be a really terrible nurse. You don't even know me. But I'm just saying, I have patients who won't take. I'll be like, oh, this is, I'm going to give you some pain medicine. Their whole body is broken. I'm going to give you some fentanyl. And they're like, no, I can't have fentanyl. Isn't that street drug? And I'm like, yeah, but no, it's very different.
It's only the street drug if you buy it on the street. That's also served at hospitals.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's a different conversation entirely. But just what I'm saying is, take the medicine. You need the medicine. You're not going to go through withdrawals after one day of, drugs. Also, try drugs, You're not going to go through withdrawals after one time. I'm just joking. I'm joking! I'm just saying. With one pang of stomach ache and then her withdrawals were over, I was like, let's not. But what was the point of that? Anyway, if you're a changeling undercover and you could morph into any shape you wanted, why are you shape-shifting into the form of the lead singer of Green Day? I just find that a really strange choice. That could just be me. Do you know who that guy is?
Billy Joe something?
Yeah, you know what he looks like?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
okay,
he looks
that guy
exactly like the changeling.
Exactly like that guy.
Yeah.
Why would you choose that? I don't know. I don't understand.
A big Green Day fan.
Not a big Green Day fan, no. Maybe he was, yeah. Ancient Earth rock punk band fan over there. My biggest con is that I like a nice casual scene between Riker and Picard, and I love that we got to see Marina Sirtis for 5 seconds. I don't love how they presented her at all as this panicked mother who doesn't understand when your, baby has acid reflux, and also, chastising the, it was just very, an archaic representation of mother-father dynamics for after a newborn baby. But my biggest issue is Riker describes a moment where she's giving birth on the Titan. He's on the bridge because work comes first. And they message him and they say, there might be a problem. And he has these 17 seconds of being afraid for his son. The woman you have spent your life with, he says nothing about his concern for her. He doesn't have a thought. They didn't say your son's in danger. They just said there's, some complications in the way that they said it. He doesn't say anything about a concern for Deanna, who is someone he knows and loves and is at this time pushing a large human through a relatively small hole. And a lot of complications can happen. And I'm just saying, why? I didn't like that.
I'm assuming it's the 25th century and that, medical stuff has come far enough that the mom is, maybe they told her she's not in any danger. I don't know. I almost felt the second time that I saw this, that this was after the child had, been born and they're doing some testing or something. But I guess the way he describes it, it is during the birth.
During the
he
birth.
Should probably energize to the, sick bay.
Energize the sick bay.
Or be
my first
there
question,
already.
How is my wife? I don't know. I didn't like it. And maybe that's why she's not talking to him.
20 years later.
Yeah, no. I just didn't, it struck me as, I know the focus is on the father-son dynamics, and that is fine. Also, I didn't like the way that came off. And yeah, that's it, basically. For my cons, what are your cons for this episode?
Beverly not telling Jean-Luc is a con for me. I understand that you think it's not a con, that someone that you've known for at least the past 40-something years of your life.
Yeah, on again, off again boyfriend.
Had romantic relationships with, had a child with, and were never told, and then ghosted you for 20 years.
Look, I'm just saying, women by and large have to bear the responsibility for children that they bear. And a lot of our culture is built on this. And so she doesn't have to tell him anything.
This is also almost a completely different culture because we're almost 500 years in the future. So things
Isn't that crazy how pervasive misogyny is that even in space-time, it's still there?
There's not like a ton of currency being exchanged in the future either, so there's not really any financial issues here. Like, you can't compare this completely equally to present day. But most fathers are not Jean-Luc Picard either, and are not, huge important figures. So this is a one-off. I think we can treat it that way. I don't agree with Beverly's choice. That's all I'm saying. I think she's in the wrong. She has her reasons, but I think she understandably is fearful for her son's life, but that's not something you can control even under the best of circumstances. So
she did a pretty good job.
He's
alive. He's a doctor.
Boarding school.
At 20, he's a doctor?
Doctor.
Come on.
Have you seen him do any surgeries
He's
yet?
performing doctory things. He's he's a Doctors Without Borders. He's like a Doogie Howser.
As a nurse, I think you're just a little more impressed because maybe he is attractive. But we'll see where this goes. Why isn't one of Riker's first commands as the new acting captain of the Titan to reinstate
get Seven out of her?
She's
thank you.
Sitting in her quarters.
Thank you.
Are they the only ones that forgot? Because half the ship went to visit Seven this week.
Yeah.
Come on.
Just not those two.
Yeah. I mean, I did like when Jack knocked out that security officer, just cold cocks him. And
I
the
did
door
like
keeps,
that too.
Closing on him.
And
Seven just kicks him out of the way and is like, well, you're insane.
I love that.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then my last con is I did not care too much. I have to be careful about this because I don't know exactly what's going on. There's a lot of potential subterfuge that could be going on here. But Riker yelling at Picard and telling him that he's doomed them all to die in front of the whole crew. So I'm just not sure. I know they're building up that tension, and I don't think it's completely unreasonable for Picard and Riker to argue, but you can't show us a scene at the beginning where they understand each other and they're talking about fatherhood, and then you go years later, and they've been through extremely tough situations where they thought they're going to die before, but I don't remember, Picard telling Riker, get off my bridge.
Picard was being really annoying, though.
Yeah, he was.
He just kept at him, and now Picard has a son and Riker doesn't?
Oh, God.
What a slap in the face!
I feel like this is a situation usually where Picard takes him to the ready room and reprimands him afterwards, not in front of the crew. Yeah. But, I don't know. I don't know that it matters. If you're thinking you're going to die in 30 seconds, I guess
it's a stretch, though.
But I don't know. You've got changelings everywhere. And then you have a lot of callbacks to previous, specifically Star Trek II and Star Trek III era, where we see a very similar thing with Captain Kirk and Spock, where they're communicating, they know that they're being monitored by Khan, and they make it sound like,
okay.
Go away, Spock, like, we're trapped down here. And, like, so there could be something here where they're just messing with, but, like, they're not in a position to really do that because they're going towards a gravity well. As far as we know, there's no way out. Unless they're pretending, maybe they fired 4 torpedoes at the Shrike that had a very low yield, knowing that the Shrike's going to make them fire at themselves. They pretended like they're spiraling out of control, but like that doesn't really make sense. Riker being a changeling, I don't know if that makes sense, but it could be like any of those situations. Because if you're a changeling and you want to F with stuff, why tinker around and blow up something here and leave a little trail here? Why not make yourself look like the captain of the ship? You can do whatever the hell you want. So I don't know. He seems out of character, but it's hard to say because there's a lot of feelings coming up. I just felt that it is a little out of character for Riker to be yelling at Picard in that way. But again, like you said, he was being pretty annoying. So
yeah.
We'll see what comes of it. That's just not what I wanted to see, I guess, this season. You don't want to see like your 2 pals yelling at each other.
You don't want to see your space daddies arguing.
That's right.
I agree. Yeah.
So I did have a couple questions from this week's episode. So before we get to the fan comments, did you have any questions or anything you wanted to discuss? Because there's a few things that came out that aren't really pros or cons. I just wanted to talk about real quick.
Honestly, most of my questions are around how space works. And no matter how many articles I read in the National Geographic, I still don't understand it. So I guess
first off, going to National Geographic, probably not the best place to get information about space. I don't
know what it is, but like there'll be those news articles on your Apple News feed about like they found a new black hole or they found out space is like 50 million bazillion times bigger than we thought. And I'll read them, and while I'm reading them, I'm like, okay, yeah, totally get it. And then after
you're like, what did
I'm
I
like,
just read?
What exactly? Yeah. So mostly my questions are around that. And how they're going to get out of this situation, because it seems like they're being pulled towards the next episode is called no-win scenario. So how are they going to get out of this no-win scenario?
That's practically a Kobayashi Maru. That's definitely a question. The question I have, or one of the 2 questions that I have, is when they're interrogating Billy Joe Armstrong about what they stole from the Daystrom Institute. So I have some thoughts, but I don't want to get too spoilery. I don't think that's too spoilery, but I know you haven't watched like the whole, even the season trailer before it came out.
Yep.
But I have some thoughts on that. So I don't know. Do you have, not knowing anything, do you have any thoughts on what they might have stolen? From the Daystrom Institute, other than the portal weapon? Because that's just like a cover.
I'm really hoping it's not like an antimatter device. One of those things that does all the things. I want something more specific. Is it lore? They steal lore? Because I know Data can't be in it, but Brent Spiner is in it, so he's playing lore, obviously.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't want to go too spoilery, but like, your background is a picture of the season, and there is a picture of Brent Spiner. We know who Brent Spiner is playing, and that's exactly what my brain goes to.
That's exactly what they stole, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he would probably have some intimate knowledge of the crew.
Right.
We don't know what he's been up to, so obviously, if he shows up, will he be
very interested in lore. I cannot wait.
Yes.
It's going to be fun.
So that'll be good. That's a weapon right there.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And then the other thing that we need to talk about is there's a weird sequence in this episode where Jack has like a fever dream after he's knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
And he sees like a vision of
veins.
Seven, and Seven says, "Follow the branches."
Yeah, and there's a door.
One could postulate that is, his subconscious thinking of his family tree and like, who's my dad? But that's already been revealed. So
right.
I don't know what that means. Yeah, there's a red door. There's like some flashes. I like freeze framed it just to see if I could find out anything, and I'm really still just not, anywhere closer to finding an answer. So that's something. I'm sure that comes back around. I don't know how compelling that is or how deep that is or what happened to him previously that he is. I don't know. There's something there. We'll see what becomes of that. But Jocelyn, we have some comments from the fans, and we need to find out what they thought about this week's episode. I'll kick it off with Chris Toffa. He says, I just don't know where to start with this. I think this is what I was hoping for with Picard's return in season 1 and 2. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed those seasons. But this is what I wanted. Holy smokes. There was not an aspect of this episode that disappointed me. I could poke holes at random portal technology being used the way it was, but who cares? Worf is just the best with his new wise outlook on life. Him and Rafi seem well suited to fight the universe. New spinoff? Events on the Titan are tremendously engaging, and the storytelling has stepped up 4 or 5 levels from season 2. And now, a rogue faction of changelings? Hashtag nerdgasm. I have already watched episode 3 twice, and I will watch it again later. If Andrew Robinson shows up as Garrick or Jeffrey Combs shows up as Wayun 8, I might just die and be fully content between Picard Season 3 and Strange New Worlds Season 1. I'm just so happy with how Trek is moving forward. 10 honorable Odo references out of 10.
If we got Wayun 8, I would... I may cry at that point. I would be so happy.
The cloning facility was destroyed, but maybe they pumped out number 8 before it happened. I can only
the best
hope.
They have to offer. Oh, all right. Will Flores says, all right, it's getting hype. While I'm not the biggest fan of DS9, what I am a fan of is continuity. Of course, the Dominion War wasn't wrapped up all neatly in a bow just because we had next-gen movies to make. I welcome all changeling shenanigans in this show. Worf is so good with writers who know the character. And him playing good cop to Raffi's bad cop is exactly what I wanted, and I didn't even know it. I think the only cons I really have are that a portal gun like that would take an insane amount of energy. And I don't know where they're generating that, but also sustaining it. Also, how did a changeling infiltrate Starfleet? I thought we had tests for that. They shot that thing several times. You would think that's a we got one shot, maybe 2 type superweapon. Money on Vadic as a changeling now. Single name, talking about Earth creatures. And the cherry on top was the show actually acknowledging the silly accent thing. 8 lost gas masks.
Yeah, if I'm a changeling and I'm making someone else's face, I don't know that I'd choose to have scars all over my face. And I could have some theories about that, but
some people choose Green Day, and I just don't get that either.
Touche.
It's no accounting for taste.
Jeremy Reed said, or maybe she's just trying to throw him off the trail.
Could be.
Jeremy Reed says, the one thing I needed from the Beverly Jean-Luc conversation was a good reason why she kept Jack a secret. I think we got it. Powerful scene, and it leaves you understanding where both sides were coming from. But Jocelyn is clearly in the wrong in this conversation.
That is not what he says.
Oh, sorry. Jeremy, how did you know? He's already listened to the episode.
It's amazing.
Shaw continues to be amazing. Speaking of amazing, honestly, there's many pros it wouldn't be fair to write out because it would take up 1/3 of the podcast. Here's what I loved, but in bullet point form. Frakes, in all caps, acting and directing. Stewart, his best performance on this show. LaForge and Seven friendship. Riker and Picard falling out. Worf! Finally, my boy Sergei Rozhenko is getting some Moogie-loving respect put on his prophet-loving name. And of course, my biggest pro of all, we got changelings, the fallout of the Dominion War, and an Odo shout-out. I'm not crying. These are just tears pouring down my face. My friends, we're home. This is a 10, no question, 10 man of honors. P.S. If you chop a Ferenghi's head off, is that considered decapitation or castration?
it's another medical mystery that I don't know that we're prepared to go into. I forgot about LaForge and Seven being besties now, potentially. I like that as well a lot.
Yeah. I will say, slightly neutral zone for me, LaForge's daughter, every time, like, it's kind of annoying when a character continually tells us stuff that we know about a character as if we never watched TNG. He's like, my father was a great man. He was a great engineer. My father was
True.
did not make friends very easily, but when he did, he made them for life. My father had a hard time with the ladies, but he practiced in the holodeck until he got it right. It's just like, whoa, TMI, like.
Yeah, that good point.
Little exposition-y every time she talks about her father. But.
Yeah. What would be great is if we could see her father.
Yeah, exactly.
Soon on the show, yeah. But it's coming. It's
Joselyn,
coming.
One question I guess we could have. Sorry to keep the fans waiting. How are they going to get out of this pickle?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, like, gas leaks. And who can see a gas leak with his own eyes? Geordi LaForge. I don't think he's going to come rescue them. I think the Shrike is probably just going to rescue them because I don't think she wants to kill them. I think she just wants to, like, mess with them, essentially.
Right.
But they could use a tractor beam or a portal weapon or whatever and save them. But
that's true.
Yeah. LaForge, if he was looking for them, he could find them.
He could find them. That's right. Okay, good point. Come on down, LaForge. Keith Danforth says, there was a lot to unpack in this episode, and much to my surprise, they did extremely well delivering 12 Amazon boxes worth of answers to most of our burning questions. Picard and Crusher are such a dysfunctional relationship that I just nodded my head at each of them yelling at each other. But the whole premise felt a little loose when you consider that when faced with bringing a new life into the universe, Crusher chose to play Médecins Sans Frontières in space instead of drag Picard's... Are we not saying ass on the podcast?
I think you can.
Can I spell it?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say...
wait, is that a question or is that a...
Yeah. I'll say Picard's arse. How about that? Oh, Picard's arse to hers to some planet, hide away, and make pizza. That seemed to work for Riker and Troy after all. Worf and Rafaela working together is easily my favorite B-plot to this season, and I absolutely love how Michael Dorn can still play Worf as effortlessly now as he did 22 years ago in DS9. He still has that short wit and wry humor and all the Klingon skills to balance the bumbling mess that is Raffi. But their reveal this episode... Oof. After so many middling villains Trek shows have played with us, bringing back the changelings as this sort of slow burn we've been scheming and plotting for 25 years threat is way more interesting than trotting out the Borg for another pass. I loved this nod to a man of honor, Odo. Finally, Riker and Picard towards the end butting heads about taking action or getting out. This almost felt a little meta-y between those who liked action Picard and felt he didn't do more in the previous seasons and those who prefer a more level-headed classic Trek approach to getting out without putting lives at risk. The portal tech was a little too gimmicky for sure, but how dumb is Picard in thinking they should fight a ship with so many unconventional weapons? I wanted to see a little more problem-solving and a little less old man shouting at nebulas. Speaking of portals, has Aperture Science survived into the 25th century? Is the real end boss of the Federation a Soong-built cybernetic Cave Johnson? Is J.K. Simmons the real villain of every fictional universe? Will there really be cake? 8 Jacks that are still alive out of 10 Jacks doing science and are still alive.
The cake is a lie, Jocelyn. Lady Boylette says... Yes! And yes! Hilarious Worf, check. Some things don't translate very well from text to my voice, but
right.
Raphael and Worf unite as warriors, check. Freaking changelings with a respectful nod to Odo, check. Explaining the accent and the secret bebe, check. A flash of Troy, check. And that weapon, check. Picard being war-hungry and Riker sending him off the bridge, huge X. Didn't like that. Seemed out of character for both. They tried to explain it with him being a father and losing a son thing, but I'm not buying it, and therefore 9. 9 decapitation Wednesdays.
And Joseph Adams says, so they took the one thing I didn't like from last week, the show repeatedly treating Raffi as a metaphorical punching bag, make it good, and then add the founders on top of it. Yes, please. Can we also have some Jem Hadar? That would be freaking cool.
Ariel Nash says, okay, everyone, this is not a drill. Deep Space Nine continuity, crying face, clapping hands, hearts. I literally lost my crap when the changelings were revealed. My daughter looked at me like I was crazy and then proceeded to throw my tablet off the edge of the bed. She's 18 months.
Aw,
so
congrats.
many things. Congrats. So many things.
You do not have to tell the father.
Happened in this episode. But I'll hit on the highlights. The conversation between Beverly and Picard was long overdue and necessary. Beautiful acting from McFadden and Stewart. Mm-hmm. Throughout Deep Space Nine and The Next Generation, I wanted to have a crush on Worf, but never quite got there because he was so hardcore Klingon, and it turned me off. Now, I'll take mellow silver-haired Klingon who drinks tea and beheads on Wednesdays any day of the week. I am impatiently waiting for next week. If Avery Brooks or any other DS9 character, let's be real, shows up for even 5 seconds in the season of Picard, I think this group will implode and will all look like the SpongeBob gif, which she posted below. Picard is delivering, and I'm here for it. 9 Zen Worfs out of 10.
Aw. And then finally, William Jenks says, that was a pretty great episode, and kudos to Frakes for another excellent outing as a director. Pros. Obviously, this is a fan service season a la Enterprise, but they are doing a nice job of mixing it up and not making it too much of just a repeat of the comfortable themes. For example, JL, if I may call him that, is again having a really rough day, but he's getting tortured in a different way than we're used to. I'm sure a lot of us besides me find ourselves very uncomfortable watching that happen. I almost hope it's some kind of ruse so my image of Picard and Riker isn't shattered. Neutral zone. I'm in the minority here, but while I loved a lot of the lines they wrote for Worf, I did think they might have turned the Worfness up to 11 or even 12. It was almost as if every word he spoke was in that cliche Worf speak that we all love. I thought there should have been a little better balance between the obvious Worfisms and more natural dialogue. My other neutral was the de-aging of Picard and Riker. It was in the uncanny valley for me. I'd have been happier with some more obvious-looking makeup or prosthetics, or if they were able to make it look cleaner digitally. No real cons, at least not worth mentioning. Terrific episode 9.
All right, Jocelyn, thank you to the fans for all your feedback. There's a lot of exclamation points, which is either really good or really bad. And this week, fortunately, it was very good. And it seems like people are digging this week's episode, but don't take my word for it, Jocelyn. We have the maths, and I have tabulated
because we can do
scores. That. We can do this. I can do a scale of 1 to 10. That is
amazing.
So what do you rate this week's episode of Picard?
Okay, I hesitated to give it this rating because I just keep doing this to this show, but honestly, it's a 9. 9 sugars in my chamomile tea because that stuff tastes terrible.
It really does.
It's truly is dirty brown water.
I give it an 8.5 changeling choke slams.
These half ratings from you. What is going on with that?
Sometimes the round number does not. It's not an 8 and it's not a 9 for me. It could potentially be a 9, and it's so much harder for me to rate Star Trek as
so non-committal, and that's why I encouraged your old girlfriend not to tell you about that son she had. Oh no!
God, so
God.
So rating one-off episodes that I've seen a bunch of times is so much easier than ongoing storylines and not knowing exactly what's going to, because it does really play into what happens next week on kind of what my score is. So it could be an 8, it could be a 9, it could even potentially be higher, but it just depends on how things play out. So
okay.
The highest rating I've given so far this season, 8.5. I think this is on par with that episode. Could potentially be better.
Yeah.
So I have to go with my own scale. 8.5. The council gives it a score of a 9, just like you.
Nice.
Because it's boring. It's an even round normal number.
Wow.
Which brings the average score to a 9.13.
Wow. That's pretty high.
Good. So, Jocelyn, we're all dying to know what happens next week on Star Trek Picard.
Well, I will tell you. But first, highlights from the Ready Room that you don't watch. But if you did watch it this week...
Okay, back to cons, Jocelyn.
No.
Oh, this is
exclusively Ready Room.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan Frakes is interviewed, and it's great. You get a tour of the Titan, which is awesome with like the effects team and the people who built it. And there is like this really great ode to Worf and his character, who, I don't know if you know this, but you probably do. Worf is the most seen character in all of Star Trek. He is in the most episodes, period. And couldn't be more proud of him. All right. Next time on Star Trek Picard, Shaw is barely making it. He's bleeding out from everywhere. It's not going well. They've got one chance to save him, and it doesn't work, and he dies, and he flatlines, and they just keep shocking him into eternity. And, of course, it doesn't work because you cannot convert a non-rhythm. That's just not how the human heart works. Follow me for more science medicine facts.
I hope I don't ever need to be shocked because I have no rhythm.
Oh!
Yeah, Worf is like basically 11 seasons of Trek plus...
It's amazing.
4 movies. Now, Riker's been in like the most shows by far. I think he's been like 6 shows. And double duty this week.
Different kinds of shows, like non-Trek shows?
No, Star Trek. He was in Next Generation. He was Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
He plays Thomas Riker in Deep Space Nine. He's in an episode of Voyager as a witness in the Q episode for some reason.
I don't know about that.
He was in Enterprise, which you have not seen.
Would have no idea about that. I've never heard of that show.
He's in.
Are you sure that's a Trek show? I think that was like a Sci-Fi
Decks,
Channel.
He shows up in and Picard, so that's 6 shows.
Yeah, good point. Okay.
And then he's directed in Discovery, and he's directed everything.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah.
So, Jocelyn, we have a spin-off. Do you perhaps have a farmhouse in the Ketha Lowlands that might need some updates? Then you'll want to check out our hottest new show, Subcontractor Worf, coming to HGTV this fall. I guess it's probably on Paramount Plus, but...
Worf and his twin brother Kern.
Oh my God.
will turn your drab manner
the property warriors.
Yeah, the property warriors. Nice.
Choose us or dishonor on your house.
Yes.
Literally. All right, Jocelyn. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Oh, I think a lot of people have said it, but I just, once again, am looking forward to the next episode, and it's just such a good feeling to have.
It is. We're only 3 episodes in. We've got many to go, 10 episodes this season, and I believe a lot of people have seen the first 6. The people got screeners, and they liked it, so I'm glad once we kind of get closer to like that 6th episode, people aren't really going to know what's coming up next, so I'm not as concerned about spoilers so far. I haven't really been spoiled on anything, so I'm excited that that continues. Jocelyn, we'll be back next week to review the 4th episode, which we kind of already spoiled, entitled No-Win Scenario. Until then, computer and program.
Thanks for listening to Star Trek Wars.